Hello guys and dolls, and welcome back. It's me, Cora. So just before we get started with the whole Alice in Wonderland palette review, I want to kind of discuss like a social phenomenon that I am kind of aware of here on the YouTube beauty community and just culturally. Think that in a lot of ways YouTube has done consumers a disservice. There are, you know, it's kind of feeding into this machine of constant promotion of products, and oh my god, and it gets overwhelming, and it's just like thing after thing after thing after thing, and there's a lot of pressure on us, the content creators, to promote these things. There's also a lot of pressure on you, the consumer, who wants to keep up and be in the loop, to purchase these things. So keeping all of that in mind, I almost feel like there's this desire for things to be bad, and I almost feel like it's a vindication of that disservice that's been done. So I want to say first and foremost that when I review products, it's just that. It's just a review. Very rarely do I actually say, I think you should buy this, or I think that this is something that you need. And when I do say that, it carries a lot of weight because, and I'm not going to say that about this palette, but when I do say that, it does carry a lot of weight because I don't say it all the time. I generally just review things and kind of let you know my opinion and kind of leave it there. And I'm rarely, in fact, I'm never just straight up negative and hate something. I always find reasons why something does or does not work. Likewise, if I really love something, I discuss why. It's not just like, oh my god, I love it because I just love it and it's amazing. I mean, there are times when that's a thing because I'm a human and I get excited about things too. And I'm not saying that the people who have a negative opinion are lying at all. I could totally see why someone would be super disappointed with this, but I also can see why someone would really, really love it. So bottom line, if you don't feel like watching this whole long review, my feelings about this palette are somewhere in the middle. This isn't the best palette ever. It's not the worst. It's totally usable, but it is not my holy grail. Here is the Alice in I just hit myself in the face with it. This is the Alice in Wonderland palette. There's sort of a kaleidoscope and butterfly motif on the front. I really like the inside. It has this cool, like, all these clocks and stuff. It's almost sort of goth looking. I definitely dig it. And there's a little thing here that says, I'm not strange, weird, off, nor crazy. My reality is just different from yours, which I actually quite like that saying. That's great. And then you open this up, oh, and the drawer keeps sliding out. That holds the shadows. And I'm trying to do this one-handed and hold it up. It's not really working. So then it has this cool like butterfly thing on the inside. This is neat. I think that compared to the original Alice palette, which had all these cool mushrooms and stuff, I think that was a little bit better. And also this is a pretty floppy mirror. It doesn't stay up very well. And I believe that the drawer stayed in a little bit better with the original palette, but honestly, my memory of it is very, very minimal. When you have launches like this, the branding is a very large portion of what you were paying for as a consumer. When a company does this, they've paid for the licensing for this. So a large portion of the budget has gone into that. So if you are into Alice in Wonderland and you love this packaging and you love the whole thing, that's part of what you're paying for. So you have to consider the fact that when you're looking at the eyeshadow quality inside a palette like this, they're going to have spent a little bit less money on the eyeshadows in this versus when they do something that's a little bit less branded. Just kind of the lay of the land. That's how it goes with all of these. This is not like specific to this palette. So with that in mind, considering that this is a branded palette, considering so many different factors here, this isn't actually a half bad palette. The eyeshadow formulas that you're going to get here are not going to be top of the line, and let's be honest, Urban Decay has one of the best eyeshadow formulas. So when they come out with something like this, they have to cut corners somewhere. And unfortunately, that means powdery eyeshadow, sometimes crumbly. There's a few in here that are quite crumbly, and I'll discuss that when we're doing the swatches. There's ones like Dream On where it's like, what was the point? But with that in mind, I've seen a lot of branded palettes that are so much worse than this that are super popular. So, you know, you definitely can make these work without a doubt. Something like your trusty NYX eyeshadow base in Milk makes everything look amazing. Many of these don't need that. I am wearing only eyeshadows from this palette on my lid today, and this is a really great warm neutral look. One thing that I really think they got right with this palette is the mix of colors. Even if the quality is not superior. I do actually really like the mix of colors here. I do have 2 demo looks, which I will have linked in the description bar down below. I'm going to put them in a double demo video, so that will not be like proper tutorial format. They're just going to be kind of, here's the eye look, no big intro, no big outro or anything like that. So if you're interested in seeing demos of 2 different looks, one being a warm and sort of simpler eye makeup, and then the other one being a little bit more like a cut crease kind of thing with the cooler tones, go ahead and click in the description bar down below to those looks. So here are the eyeshadows and the palette. I want to go ahead and go through each of them with you and sort of discuss each one in turn, the quality of it, the texture, things that you can see when you're swatching it, but also I can explain from my perspective using some of them. Like some of them tend to be kind of crumbly, or things like that, like Cake was very crumbly. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and swatch them and talk about each color. Looking Glass is a sheer-ish satiny pink. It's actually quite good as a highlight. Hatter is a grass green, good pigmentation. Lily is a pink cream with a violet flash, great pigmentation. Heads Roll is a bright teal with golden sparkle, great pigmentation. Time is a dark navy with navy shimmer, great pigmentation. Reflection is a cantaloupe shade that's great as a transitional color, great pigmentation, great texture. Gone Mad is a deep eggplant that works effectively as a matte and does not have good pigmentation. Duchess is a peachy kind of duochrome, not that impressed with this one. Bandersnatch is a green tinted navy, great pigmentation. Dream On is what I thought when I swatched this eyeshadow. It just has very little pigmentation. This can work as a blender, but not really well. Dormouse is an orange tinted medium brown, great pigmentation. Paradox is a peachy, fiery orange, kind of crumbly, kind of disappointing. Kingdom is a rosy brown, great pigmentation. Salazin Grum is a great shimmery cranberry color, great pigmentation. Chronosphere is a bronzy brown, okay pigmentation. Metamorphosis is a beautiful blue that has sort of a green shimmer to it that doesn't really come through that much, but it's got that hint of it. Works better on the eye than it swatches. Cake is rather disappointing. It's a sheer bright pink, which is just a weird combination that just doesn't work for me. Chessboard is a warm chocolate brown, great pigmentation. Royal Flush is quite good actually. It's a nice shimmery pale pink. And Mirror is a smoky gray, okay pigmentation, actually quite good in use on the eye. So now that you've seen all of the eyeshadows, I want to go ahead and talk to you guys about the lipsticks as well. So there are 5 lipsticks in this launch, and these are the new formula that Urban Decay is coming out. I know we also have the announcement of the new Vice lipsticks, so some of these actually have newer textures that are going to be part of that Vice lipstick lineup. So the lipsticks come in these really cool bullets, which have this really cool like kaleidoscopy flower motif on them. I really quite like the packaging on this. It has the Urban Decay logo lasered on the inside, and it is also etched into the lipstick itself. So the first one is Alice, and this is going to be a sheer shimmer texture. I'm gonna be totally honest with you guys. This one really doesn't do it for me. The color of it is not attractive because it has this weird like orangey yellow undertone that just does not work for me in any way, shape, or form. And I don't think it's going to be very flattering on most people. I totally like weird lipsticks, but I don't feel like this one is really doing anything for me in a weird way. It just looks kind of unflattering. Next one is Mad Hatter, which is the metallic purple. Now for me, this one was a bit on the sheer side. I sort of rubbed it on the bottom first and then with just one layer on the top so you could see that. This one doesn't really do it for me either. It's kind of on the sheer side. When I want purple lipstick, I typically want it to be like in your face. I want it to be like fully opaque because that way my lip line color doesn't show through and look kind of weird. Speaking of, that happens also with Time, but strangely enough, I really like Time. This is also the metallized finish. This one is like a gunmetal blue. It's really cool. I think that this one, as long as you get those lip lines fully covered and everything, and you do need to go over it several times to get opaque color coverage, but I think it's kind of cool. I like the fact that it's a bit sheer. The metal finish of it is quite cool. So the next color is Arasabeth, or I think you pronounce it Arasabeth. I can't remember, but right now I do really like this one. The texture of this is Comfort Matte, which is going to be one of their new formulas. It glides on really well. It doesn't tug at the lips. It feels just beautiful and comfortable to wear. I love the super brightness of this lipstick. The final lipstick is Murano, which actually matches my hair quite well. This one has a metallized finish as well, but I feel like it doesn't show up as metallic and shiny and shimmery. This one kind of didn't work with my lips so well. You can see my lip scar is poking through, and this type of color, it's very important for me to have a very even color, because otherwise with my lip scar things can look a little funny. So this one doesn't work for me as well, but I have seen it on other people and it has looked fabulous. So it could just be, you know, my own like dry cracked lips on that one, so I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt. Okay, so now what I want to do is a Q&A on Instagram. I asked you guys, do you have any questions, comments, concerns you want me to address with this palette? Let me know. So I'm just gonna go ahead and get started with that. Just Andreas Me wants to know, can you describe the feeling of the formula? I feel like throughout this whole little pocket of eyeshadows, I feel like there are some here that have a really smooth texture. There's some that are a little bit crumbly. For instance, Cake, Paradox, Gone Mad, those are all pretty crumbly. Some of them feel a little bit smoother, and some of them have like a nice, how do I explain this? A nice grip to them. I think you'll know what I'm talking about if you used eyeshadows like this, where like it has like a good amount of pigmentation and it's not like crumbly texture. It's not powdery, if you know what I mean. Kingdom, Cells, and Grum, Royal Flush, those are all kind of like that. For the most part, they are on the powdery side, and Fallout is an issue. Strictly Medical wants to know, how chalky are the eyeshadows? Fallout, so I just talked about that. The Fallout is real, guys. It's a thing, especially with the darker shades. That's not terribly surprising, and Fallout for me is less of an issue because I tend to do my eyeshadow first, but it is a concern for a lot of people. In terms of chalkiness, I don't find them to be chalky for the most part. Some of them are crumbly, but not chalky. Kristen Beth wants to know, can you travel with it and create entire looks, or do I need to bring neutrals, transitional colors? I think that as long as you want to do a warm look, you can totally use this for you know, a nice neutral look like I did today. Great warm neutral look. I think it looks great with the Erasabeth lipstick. You can also do so many fun, cool things with the cool toned eyeshadows in this look, or in this palette. Particularly Headsel Roll Time, Bandersnatch, Metamorphosis, and Hatter. Those, and even Gone Mad as a blender, and Dream On a little bit as a blender with a little bit of Lily and Looking Glass. I mean, you're really set up for success for some really cool color in that color family. For this look, unfortunately I didn't film a tutorial for this look, but I used Reflection, Dormouse, I used Kingdom, Chessboard, and Chronosphere, as well as Looking Glass for this look, as I used Looking Glass as the highlight. So I think that you really can actually travel with this. You can do a whole bunch of different looks with this, particularly with those cooler toned, fun, bright poppy colors. So Abby Galley wants to know, how is the blending capability of the brighter colors, the non-neutrals, and how is the opacity of the colors? Are they good with one swipe, or do you have to build? Some of them are pretty good with one swipe. I think that overall you do need to build out a little bit. Yeah, you need to build up a little bit, I would say, just across the board. Unique by Mandy G wants to know, do they stain? And the darker, like blue tone colors did stain my skin. Not terribly. I woke up and my skin was pretty normal, but yeah, a little bit of staining. But like the purples, the red, the oranges, and stuff like that, they didn't stain at all. Fat Punk Artistry wants to know how the textures compare to past Urban Decay palettes. Improvement or no? What is your opinion on the layout of the shades and packaging flaws? I feel like the palette is truly gorgeous, but the older packaging makes me a tad, kind of like sentence kind of broke up there. If the colors kick ass, I'll eat my words and add it to the massive collection. Okay, so how does this compare? The thing that really stands out to me is that in the Vice palettes, I feel like there was a lot of like glittery eyeshadow and not a lot of texture differences. Whereas with this one, there is a really nice balance of textures. There are satins, there's mattes, there's shimmers, there's a good highlight in there, there's your jewel tones, there's neutrals. So I think in that regard, I think that this does have a lot going for it if you like these like blowout palettes with lots of colors. In terms of actual quality, I think this is the Vice 3 palette. I think that this one had slightly better quality. And I actually really like this. You can see I've used a lot of Sonic and a lot of Alien. This is a really good palette in my opinion as well. Oh sorry, I wasn't showing it properly. Hey. RugbyG562 wants to know pigmentation and blendability. I think we've kind of covered pigmentation and blendability. They actually blend really well. Partially because they're sort of on the powdery side, but they do blend. They don't like kind of put them on and they stick and then they're hard to blend out. They do blend out quite easily. Angel Mary Fussy wants to know, when a shade is weak, is it blendable? Or buildable, sorry. Yeah, they are buildable for the most part. Dream On, no. That one is just kind of like glitter in a pan. It really doesn't have any color pigmentation. And the only other one in the palette that I feel like isn't really super blendable or build upable is Cake. And you can build it up somewhat, but it's just not gonna, it just can't. Life Lipstick Las Vegas wants to know, can you dupe this with another Urban Decay palette? Not like directly, but they kind of have like a similar theme with the jewel tones and the brights and the shimmers and stuff. So there's definitely something that you can find in another Urban Decay palette that you like. Eden Rivers wants to know about the lasting power. I don't think that these are like super long lasting. Like I would never, like as a makeup artist, I would never show up with eyeshadows of this quality to do someone's makeup on set, because I couldn't guarantee they would last. And I do notice that these actually look better in person than they do on camera, which means that the pigmentation when you're like photographing something or when you're filming something, it needs to be a little bit more intense to show up, because the camera lighting and everything sort of washes color out, whereas in person it can look really great. So that tells me that these have slightly less pigmentation than the original Urban Decay eyeshadows, which show up on camera fabulously. Oh my god. Someone wants to know if this is a must-have if you have a lot of Urban Decay palettes. I think that really depends on you. Are you like a mega Urban Decay collector and you just gotta have them all? Or are you kind of like getting kind of burnt out and want to take a break? That's a you question. A lot of people have questions about the packaging, like how I feel about it, blah, blah, blah. Overall, yes, this is pretty bulky. You have your eyeshadow drawer, which is kind of cute. You have the brush, which I usually am not all that big of a fan of the brushes that come in these. This one I think is cute. It has the motif of it on there, which is nice. It's not just like a plain brush, but overall this still isn't something I'm gonna grab for very much, although I did use it for my makeup today. You know, I did actually use it. In terms of like bulk, it's about double the width of one of the Vice palettes, so it does take up a considerable amount more room in the drawer. The way that I feel about the packaging, these are my thoughts, comments, questions, and concerns about the packaging. My feeling about the packaging is I like that it's cardboard, because it makes it a little more eco-friendly, because this can be biodegradable if need be. If you have a compost pile or something, I don't think you could exactly throw this in like the recycle bin. That would be interesting to come across for, anyway. I think that I'm of two minds with this. If you are a collector, you're gonna freaking love it. You're gonna love the look of it. You're gonna love that it's big, because you're like, display piece. But if you are just like a massive makeup hoarder and you have tons of stuff, and how to store things is a concern, or likewise if you're not a collector and you're like, dude, I have one drawer where I keep my makeup, you're not going to be into this. You're not going to be into it, because it's just it's a big thing. It's a big old thing in your makeup. The other thing too is you could ditch this and just use this if space is a concern. You could also, if you want to, you're kind of cray, but you could take this apart and depot them and put them in a Z palette. I won't do that because I don't want to risk breaking them. And I do kind of dig on the collectability of it. I'll be honest, I like that. A Whimsy Blue wants to know, best for cool or warm tones, what colors stand out for making great pairings? Okay, so in my opinion, I think this is really good for warm neutrals and cool fun colors, because I feel like overall a lot of the warm fun colors in here underperform, with the exception of Salads and Grum, which I think is quite good. But like Paradox and Cake, which for me are like the most fun of the fun colors, or maybe even Duchess, which is meant to have this duochrome but just kind of falls flat when you put it on. I mean, I put it over the NYX Jumbo pencil and it still didn't really pop. It looked just peach instead of this cool duochrome. It didn't have that effect. So in my opinion, it's like warm neutrals, bam, got it. Cool neutrals. Yeah, you can make that happen too. You know, you've got Chronosphere, you've got Mirror. You can do a really cool neutral smoky eye with those, and maybe Royal Flush included as well, even a little bit of Dream On. And you've got those cool colors that are super fun and poppy. Hatter, Heads Will Roll, Bandersnatch, Metamorphosis, Time. Like, you can make these really fun things happen in the cool category, so you kind of can use it for both. And I think that's definitely a strength of this palette overall. Lily is actually really kind of good, but it's a very light kind of duochrome that isn't necessarily like crazy, but it's a beautiful highlight and looks so pretty in the blue look that I did. So now's the part where I tell you guys that I have done 2 demo looks with this palette. I've done a warm, softer kind of look, and then I've done one with a little bit more like a cut crease and winged liner and things like that. Neither of these are full tutorials. They are both just eye demos. I did one on one eye and one on the other. So if you guys would like to check that out, I will have a link in the description bar to each of these. They're actually part of one video, so it's a double demo video. So it's not well formatted, I'm going to be totally honest, but the only way that you have access to that video is through the links in the description bar down below. They are timestamped to start at either the beginning of the warm look or the beginning of the cool looks. I hope that that will be helpful for those of you who want to check that out and kind of get an idea. So that's kind of where I'm at with this palette. It's not the best palette I've ever used. It's not the worst. It's not horrible. I'm glad Urban Decay sent it to me. I don't know that I would have purchased it, only because I'm not that super into the Alice in Wonderland franchise. And at this point in the game, I'm just being honest, like, I've been around the block with with makeup, and if I'm going to purchase something, I typically want it to be like super unique, or want it to be like really convenient for travel, or I want it to be the best quality, or so inexpensive that I don't care that it's not the best quality. Whereas this isn't bad, it's just okay. And that in and of itself is some kind of a disappointment that it's not perfect, because of course fans of this want the eyeshadows to be perfect as well, but unfortunately with branded palettes it rarely, if ever, turns out that way. So that is my review. Sorry if that was kind of a bummer, but you know, I'm just keeping it real here on the YT. That's it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching my very long review of this palette. Be sure to check out those demos if you're interested in seeing how these eyeshadows perform, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Remember to be vintage or tacky. Just be your own kind of beautiful. See you, bye.